Hello and welcome back guys to yet another video from Fin Tutors. Today I'm really excited to share with you what are a few top 10 exam questions or exam areas which are relevant for you in the OCS examination for the May 24 attempt and the August 24 attempt. So as you all know, in this particular exam, the pre-scene is about Canon, which is a company which basically into the production of saddles. And what usually happens is that students at the end usually get worried. Okay, there is not a lot of time left for the examinations. How do we go about all these processes? What are a few areas we can leave? What are a few areas we really need to focus on? So the aim of this entire video which Fin Tutors has brought out for you is for you to let know what are a few exams which we have as per our expertise as a award winning tuition provider have seen. What have we observed are a few trends which usually come up. What are a few questions you can expect from just the pre-scene analysis? So in this video I will be taking you through this entire thing, and before I do that, let me give you a short introduction about me and Fin Tutors. So as you might already be aware, and if you are not, Fin Tutors is famous for receiving this Global Pass Rate Excellence Award, which is basically an award given to the tuition providers which have an excellent pass rate. And at Fin Tutors, that's something we've been able to achieve not just once but year after year by giving excellent tuition services to all of our students. And it's your results, it's your efforts which helps Fin Tutors get this particular award. And so be rest assured that you can trust us, and we've even received this award by SEMA as well. A little bit about myself. I'm a tuition provider with Fin Tutors, and I'm also involved in correcting some of your mock exams as well as creating a few of courses which you will be going through at your time at Fin Tutors. So let us move on as to why should you trust us? Why are we an expert in all of these areas? So first, we are pre-scene experts. We take out a lot of time to curate your pre-scene analysis, to give you these important notes. We also give you various industry analysis sheets which will help you answer your exams better and also get a deeper understanding of the pre-scene and the various intricacies involved in that. Then we pick the underlying theme of the pre-scene suggestions. We put in a lot of time to understand what the pre-scene is about, what are a few prospective questions that can be brought up by this. And we also help you understand what are a few problem areas that we can understand just by looking at the pre-scene. We then also have this very special pre-scene quiz, and we also use different perspective and create a SWOT analysis of the particular company. So what we do is that we will give you out a quiz which you can fill out, and on the basis of that we create a SWOT of the company as to what are a few strengths, what are a few weaknesses, what are a few threats that may occur to the company. Once you get a SWOT analysis of this entire company, this will enable you to answer the all the questions with a deeper clarity. Then we also have through our expertise, we understand what are a few favorite exam topics. By doing an analysis of all the past papers, we can tell you what are a few topics which the examiner loves to ask in all the questions. So we will also be helping you out with those questions. Next, we create 25 mock questions. Nobody else in the industry will give you 25 full mock questions with over 70 topics being tested. And the speciality about our mock exams is that they are exactly exam based answers, and you will be marked in a time based manner. So every single time you write a paper, mock paper or mock question with us, it will be in a timed atmosphere which will stimulate the exam environment for you. And apart from that, all of our questions are marked by certified markers, and they will give you detailed analysis of what you can do better, where you have gone wrong, what are a few points you can include in your answers, how you can improve your writing style, etc. And finally, as you know, we are SEMA registered tuition providers and you are in safe hands. So let me quickly move on to what are a few important topics and areas which you can cover. One small note is that these topics are not in a line of importance, as in topic 1 is not necessarily the most important topic and topic 10 is not necessarily the least important topic. They have been picked in a random order. So let's move on. So let us look at the first important area from your OCS examination point of view. Which topic is it? It's production related issues which coincide with digital aspects. So as you all are aware, SEMA also puts out its core areas and key topics, out of which this particular topic, which is your production related issues, becomes a part of your core area C and also your core area D. So as you can already see, everything that we have prepared here for you is in sync with CIMA's core areas as well. So what are a few questions that you can expect from this production related issues? The first one will be, how can big data be used for your businesses and its flaws? So especially when it comes to big data, so currently at Canon, we don't sell any of our goods through an online model. We could probably conduct a research as to how much of saddles are being sold online through the online platform. Then what are some flaws also which big data can help us identify about our current operations in the business. So this is one area where the use of big data for your business or its flaws can also be tested. Next could be your bottlenecks and your areas of inefficiency. So currently at Canon, let's say we have a good gross profit ratio of around 33.33%, but in the examiner they can also ask you questions with respect to, in the production process, identify what a bottleneck could be. So let's say we are sourcing material from some suppliers, probably that could be a bottleneck area, or in the production process a particular machinery may be causing some delay in time, or what are some other factors which are leading to inefficiency. So this is something which you will have to identify in the exam area, and also then you will have to give in some tips as to how can we improve these bottlenecks. Next, quality related issues and quality costs. So as you may be knowing, Freya, the owner's daughter, she herself is into equestrian sports, but one important thing we could note here is that she does not use her own brand when she's racing. And now in the future, if she is going to be the face of this particular company, it's important for us to know what exactly are the quality related issues that at the sports levels people don't use our saddles so much. So that could be an area. Is there some quality related issue, or is there some other quality costs that are involved? So this will help us identify that as well. Next, move to modern manufacturing techniques. Currently at Canon, if let's say the examiner tells you that you are using a regular production process, but let's say there's a new technology which is available in the market. So this, in the exam, you always have to identify, is there a trend which my competitor is following which I can also implement in my this thing, or can we move into just in time inventory model, or what are some new technologies or models or processes available which will help me advance my company as a whole. And finally, the analysis of KPIs, which is your key performance indicators. So what could probably the examiner ask you is, identify a few KPIs for the production related process, or it could also ask you to critically analyze what are a few KPIs which are probably not going right with the company. And note, for you to be able to answer all of these questions, you will have to be thorough with your E1 syllabus, because all of these areas form a part of your E1 syllabus, and it is your HR cycles, your big data management, your KPIs, your just in time, your TQM. So once you are aware of all of these topics and you answer a few of our mock questions based on these topics, and in the exam, let's say a particular question comes up with respect to KPIs, you will be in a much better position compared to other students to answer these questions, because you've already practiced these areas. So note, it's important that you revise all of your concepts well, and especially surrounding these areas, and you also practice these mock questions to enable you to write the answers in a much better manner. Now let us move on to the next important topic area. Now that is your time series analysis. Your time series analysis becomes a part of your core area E. And what are a few questions that usually come up in this are, in the exam, you will be asked to identify or to explain what exactly does a time series chart or table mean, and how can it be useful for Canon. So let's say from the pre-scene analysis, we already know that in the past year, we sold around 1700 units of your saddles. But what is the comparison of this, let's say, with the industry analysis, or how does this stand with the past year basis, or what are our month on month sales compared to past year, compared to this year? So how exactly could a time series analysis be useful in the context of Canon and the sales it has been making? The next question which could come up could be, the different sales trends will be given to you in the multiplicative or additive model, and you will have to identify and then explain to them. So from your P1 syllabus, you would have already studied what a multiplicative or additive model is. So you will have to look at that particular trend and analyze what type of trend this is, and also explain this. So let's say they have given a particular table or a chart to you, and you will have to explain, okay, what does this mean from point A to point B, and all this analysis you will have to do by explaining them. Then next is they could give you a trend line or a seasonal line analysis, and you will have to again explain what it means. So let's say in the example of Kanan, let's say there is a sporting season, the equestrian season or tournaments happen at a particular period. So probably at that time or before that, there could be a surge in sales because the new season or the new tournaments are going to start. So they will give you all of these trend lines and seasonal analysis, which you will have to study and understand what exactly they mean and how they can be, either they could be a threat for us or they could be an area which we can improve on. So all of these time series analysis become a part of your core area E and is a part of your P1 syllabus. Now let us move on to the next important area, which is your fixed and sales variance analysis. Now this is a part of your core area B. You must have studied what basic variances mean, and in the exam a very common question that comes up is that different tables will be given to you with the variances already calculated. They will not ask you to calculate the variance, sometimes you may even be asked, but usually they will give you the various variances that have been calculated, and they will ask you to identify why, or they'll have to ask you to mention why this particular variance has arisen. And in the scenario, you will always see that they will always mention a clear why as to this variance has occurred. All you need to do is to identify that, explain and elaborate on the same. So let's say in this particular scenario, the examiner tells you that there is a sales variance which has occurred, or let's say probably the sales have either gone up or they have gone down. Now you will have to always understand and see why has this exactly happened. Like I mentioned, has Freya been a good promoter of our brand and that is what led to the brand selling more, or did she win a particular championship? Or let's say a reverse could happen, probably the sales went down. Could it be because Freya lost her championship, or there was some other company which gained in other sponsors? So you will have to look into the scenario and understand what was the cause of this particular variance and explain and elaborate on the same. The next favorite examiner question usually is they will give you the different types of variances, and you will then have to explain either it was a favorable or an adverse variance and the reason that caused them. This is a very common question that usually comes. So let's say they will tell you that this particular material price has gone up or gone down, and then you will have to mention that, okay, this particular material variance was adverse or favorable, and you will also have to explain the interdependence on this on the other aspects, like how the increase in the material price led to a higher efficiency in labor, or because the material price, let's say, went down, that meant you probably bought in cheaper material, what was the impact of this on the labor? Probably you had to spend more on hiring more quality labor or increase the number of hours you were spending. So these are a few questions which usually come with respect to your fixed and sales variances. This again becomes a part of your P1 syllabus, and like I said, it's always important to revise your concepts well and constantly attend mock papers. And if you've registered with Fin Tutors, we will give you 25 mock questions which will help you practice these areas again and again. So when you sit for an examination, you will be there sitting with confidence as to how you exactly attempt this particular question. Let us move on to the next topic, which is your IAS and IFRS to know from F1. So again, this becomes a part of your F1 syllabus where you have a lot of different IAS and IFRS mentioned, and this is a part of your core area D. So under this, usually you study about your IAS 16, which is your plant property equipment, your IAS 36 about your impairments, IFRS 16 about your leases, IAS 2 about your inventories. So what question can usually come up is that with respect to your PPE related to the recognition queries. So what happens is that not all expenses probably, or not all costs can be capitalized. So they will be giving you a lot of details and numbers about this particular property which you may have bought, and they will give you and question, which is what particular cost can be capitalized and what cost cannot be capitalized. So you will have to list out reasons for the same. So what usually happens is that your directly attributable costs can be capitalized, whereas your non-directly attributable costs cannot be capitalized. So once you revise this concept, you will be able to answer the questions in a better clarity. The next common question which comes up is with respect to your revaluation. So they will be giving you the revaluation of a particular asset has probably occurred, and now you will be have to explain what is the process of revaluation and the steps with respect to that in your particular company. Sometimes, let's say in Canon, we got a particular asset which was revalued, and further it will be revalued down or up again. Now you will have to explain what exactly, how does this revaluation take place. Does the revaluation amount go to the revaluation surplus? Does it come in the statement of profit and loss? This entire process you will have to explain as to what item will be revalued, how, where exactly will it be coming in your statement of profit and loss or your statement of equity. Then the next question which can come up is with respect to disposal of assets. Now again, you will be given all the numbers for this, and they will ask you to tell what will be accounted for during the disposal of a particular asset. And similarly, questions with respect to impairment can also come up. So thus it's very important that you study all of these standards and your various IFRS in detail, so that when you see this question in the exam, you automatically know, okay, this is how you particularly record an asset, this is the impairment, at disposable, what do we do if there is a gain, what do we do if there is a loss at disposable. Then another common question which usually comes up with respect to your leases. Now leases, as you know, is a very broad topic. They can give you an entire schedule with lease payments and your interest rates given, and they will ask you to record the same in a question. Now the question can also be different with respect to whether it's a small lease or whether it's a regular lease. Then they will ask you, what is the lease liability amount, where will it come, what area will come on the asset side, how is it calculated, what costs are included in them, what items are excluded from them. So it's very important for you to again revise your concepts thoroughly. So these are a few important questions which you are likely to see from your IAS and IFRS. Now let us move on to the next important area. Let us move on to the next important area that we have, that is your working capital management. This particular topic forms the part of your core area F. So as you know, working capital is nothing but managing your cash position. So type of questions which usually come up in your working capital are with respect to your, how do we improve our receivable positions. So as you know, in terms of Canon, we have most of our sales through wholesalers and retailers, and we don't really have any online chains. So it is really important that when we give them these extra days of 30 to 60 days, and if this payment does not come in, this will create a problem for us. So the examiner will ask you, how can you improve your receivable days? What strategies can you implement to increase your relationship with the wholesalers to improve your receivable positions? A few other questions that we can come is, how do you improve your cash positions? So your receivables is the credit amount due to you, and your cash and cash equivalents. How can you improve your cash and cash equivalents? How can you probably, let's say, invest money in some short-term areas where it's the money is recoverable quickly in order to meet any of the short-term expenses. The next question which usually comes up is, how do you improve your payables position? So earlier we discussed about your receivables positions, but it's also very important that you have a proper payables position. The company should not land in a position wherein the amount it has to pay to its suppliers increases to such an extent that it leads to a default. So what are a few strategies we can implement to improve our payables positions? The next common question which usually we see in the exams coming up is your issues that could arise if working capital cycle is changed or if it's affected. What are a few issues that can arise if your working capital cycle is changed or affected? So in this particular area, the examiner could ask you, let's say if they've given you working cycle period which has been given, but let's say due to a change in the supplier's payment to you or the customer's payment to you, the cycle similarly goes up and down. So what could be the impact of that? How could you manage that? What are a few problems that arise if working capital is not managed? Like either we could go to liquidation, we cannot meet up our payments, or the goodwill of the company is harmed. So you always have to remember in these OCS examinations that you need to keep in mind the pre-scene of the company always, the context in which the company is operating, and a few potential steps you can take to avoid these situations, to improve certain situations. And again, these become a part of your overall F1 syllabus where you have to study about your working capital management techniques, what are your receivables, payables, formulas, how do you calculate these working period days, etc. So let us now move on to your next topic area. Your next topic area here is your CVP analysis or chart based analysis. This particular area forms a part of your core area E. So what are a few questions which usually come up here is that they can give you a question asking you to explain how the concepts of break-even point, expected value, sensitivity analysis are important for your company. So in the context of Canon, they could give you that, let's say now you're sending a X number of units. What is the break-even point? How much new sales do we need to do so that we reach a break-even point? What is our safety margin? With respect to expected values, they can give you a EV, table calculation, and they can ask you to explain what is expected value, what are a few advantages of it, what are a few assumptions, what are a few disadvantages of this. Similarly, they can also ask you how is sensitivity analysis useful in a particular area, what does it tell you, what are the implications of not doing a sensitivity analysis. So again, like I've been pointing out since the start, it's always important that you keep revising your topics again and again so that when a question comes in the exam, you are ready to answer them. The next question which they can ask you here is with respect to they can give you a break-even chart or a multi-product break-even chart, and you will need to provide the explanations of various points in the chart. A deep understanding of this is thus very necessary for you as to what is the point at which break-even happens, what are the buffer sales, what is the part where you're in a loss. So you need to have a deep understanding of the break-even chart, of the multi-product break-even chart as well. The next question we switch to your LPP, which is your linear programming problems. So what happens is that they could ask you what is LPP, what are its uses, that you have to have a clarity of that, and they can also give you a graph and ask you to explain what is the feasible region, what is a particular area which is a feasible region, and the bottlenecks of the business should also be understood. Thus, it's very important that you have conceptual clarity of these problems as to what is the equation, what are a few assumptions you can make, how do you exactly locate the feasible region, what does the region outside the feasible region mean, what does the part inside the feasible region mean. So kindly note that when you are covering your chart based analysis, CVP analysis, it's very important that you study about your break-even charts, you study about your multi-product break-even charts, and also your LPP models are clearly covered. Your margin of safety formulas is something that you remember. You're able to not just remember these formulas but also explain them in the context of the scenario by offering quick and crisp all of your answers. And this is why at Fin Tutors, when you will be attempting our mock papers, we put you through all of these questions and we cover 70 of these topics, and we will help you build your answers. We will help you to move from not just rote learning and writing, but how do you give added value suggestions to the company? What is your role exactly? How can you add value to the examiner? Whom are you exactly addressing these questions to? So it's also very important that you practice a lot of answers, which we enable at Fin Tutors when you take up our courses. Now let us move on to the next topic area, which is your generic business related questions. What are a few overlappings? This particular area is overlap between your different core areas. So in these type of questions, what usually happens is that there is a ethics related questions which usually comes up. They will tell you that at Canon, probably a director or a manager or someone in the organization was involved in an unethical practice. It could either be with respect to not treating the customers or the suppliers well. It could be not recognizing particular assets as they are supposed to be recorded as per your different standards, or it could also be some other measurement or some other projection which was done in an order to get their bonuses. So in the exam, they will mention this unethical behavior which you are supposed to identify and guide the corrective paths. So often it could either be there is some ethics which either you are coming across and what you have to do when you see someone doing something unethical, and those could involve your steps as to you're supposed to inform the director, inform the audit committee, you're supposed to inform the organizations in place who stop all this, or at the best then you probably leave the organization. So you need to be aware not just of what the unethical behavior is, what is the correct way of recording or doing a certain thing, but you also need to be aware of what steps you are required to take as an individual, or what step you are supposed to guide them as a professional as to the technical correctness of working with that particular issue which has been arising. The next type of question which can arise is tax based questions which are often asked, and this could be related to your tax on trading income and disallowable expenses. So as you know, there is a difference in your taxations calculations and your P&L tax calculations. So there could be a problem which asks you to, calculate the tax allowable depreciation and your regular depreciation, and what are a few disallowable expenses which your taxation does not allow. The next topic which would come also is your corporate governance framework could also be discussed here, as to what is the duty of the directors towards the company and your overall corporate governance structure in general. Here your CGMA models or your other models given by various entities comes handy to know what the various principles are of the corporate governance which can be followed. What are a few codes, principles of UK, of the United States, which have been prepared to guide the various companies. Then the next questions, which are your tabular analysis, is also something very common which has been, where a statement of cash flow reading can be asked, as to they could ask you what does this particular table tell you about the company's cash flow, what are a few interesting things about your company's operating activities, financing activities, etc. And finally, coming to your CGMA, cost transformation model, is also a very popular model which is usually discussed here, as to what is the theory, what are the principles behind this, what an organization needs to keep in mind. So again, this particular area has a lot of overlapping between your different core areas, but like we have specified again, that your pre-scene is very important, and you need to be aware of the current status of the company. What is the company currently doing? What are the cost models which are currently used? What is the corporate governance model? What is the organizational structure today? And then on the basis of that, you can be asked to give various suggestions also. And this entire understanding of the pre-scene, of the concepts, will help you write better answers and make your answers discussion one step further. Then your ethics, corporate governance will become a part of your F1 syllabus, but your CGMA cost transformation is a part of your P1 syllabus. So you can see we are covering all of these areas here when we are discussing the important questions, which is in line with your CMA syllabus which has been provided. So let us look at the next set of important topics which we have here, is your budgeting. Now, everyone knows budgeting is a very important part of any business, and this becomes a part of your core area B. And so the type of questions which usually come up here is that, what is the current budgeting system at Canon? So what are we currently doing? How do we budget for things? Do we have a traditional budgeting system? Do we have a rolling? Do we have a flex budgeting system? And why is it best for our organization, or why is it, let's say, not good for our company? Let's say probably we are using a flexible budgeting system, but it could also happen that this system is not useful for us. It's very important for you to know what are the different types of budgetings and what is the benefits of them, what are the disadvantages of each of them, especially in the context of the business that you're currently running. The next type of questions which come up is, you will ask to change to different budgeting systems. So the knowledge of different budgeting systems is key. So let's say currently you are following a zero-based budgeting model. They will ask you, is an activity-based budgeting model relevant for you? And then sometimes it may be relevant, sometimes it may not be relevant. So it's important that you need to know the philosophies of all of these different budgeting systems, where in what scenarios it is useful. So some budgeting models like your zero-based budgeting are useful in an environment where the entire system is able to do everything from start, but certain types of businesses may not support a zero-based budgeting system, but for them a different types of budgeting system may be much more useful. So you need to be aware of what organizations are flexible, or what are the best models for different types of organizations. Then the next topic which could be asked here is your fixed budgeting system explanations and its comparison with your flexible budgeting systems. So what are, let's say, the key distinctions between both of them? How is one superior to the other, or what are the disadvantages compared to the advantages? So this again, budgeting becomes a part of your P1 syllabus. It's very important that you are thorough with all of your fixed, flexible, zero-based, activity-based accounting, their assumptions, their advantages, their disadvantages. So whenever in the examination you will see a question, you automatically are able to come up of what exactly this means, and then again, depending on the pre-scene, you are able to answer the question asked. So the next important topic that we have here, your area 9, is your pricing and cost related issues. Now this is a part of your core area 1 or core area A, and the questions which usually come up with respect to your pricing and costing are, what is the current pricing method, and can the same change as the company expands? So it could be the case that currently Kanan uses your traditional costing, but in the exam, the examiner may ask you, is a activity-based costing approach suitable? Is a marginal costing suitable? Is a absorption costing more suitable? So it's very important for you to know all the different costing mechanisms, that how exactly is cost or prices arrived at the company. Thus, it's again very important for you to know all of these different costing systems, their advantages, their disadvantages, etc. Then you could also be asked about change to digital costing using your extensive softwares, Excel sheets. What are the advantages of those? What are a few disadvantages of those? So you also be need to aware of the digital costing framework and how do these usually function. The other question which we have seen come across is what is the current costing system and change to a new costing system. So like I was saying earlier, what is the current system? What suggestion would you want to give? Is it better to shift to an X type of costing system? Is it better to stay? What other costing system do you think is more relevant for the organization? So you need to know about all of these. Then you're also asked about your costing tables and information given, and where you will have to give your analysis. And this analysis will show which system is usually better. So all of these become a part of your, again, P1 syllabus, where it's extremely important that you know your costing systems in detail, the advantages, and what other costing principles that are integral to the examination. So you need to be aware of all of these areas. Let us move on to your next topic, which is your last and final area, your important area 10, which is your risk related decision making. Now this becomes a part of your core area E, and the type of questions which we have usually seen come up a lot are your different payoff or cost based tables provided, and then you will be need to give an analysis and decisions which have been performed. You have to explain all of those decisions. You will need to be aware of how exactly do we make a payoff table, or what does all the factors in the payoff table exactly mean, and how are you able to draw some inference from them. The next type of questions could be your decision criteria to be examined with the different risk attitudes. So there are different risk attitudes. Someone could take a maxi-max approach, someone could take a maxi-min approach. So they can ask you at Canon, what would be the decision a particular employee in the company would take, or what is the decision would John would take based on their risk attitude. You're supposed to identify and understand these are the different possibilities available to you which this type of person with this certain risk will take, and based on what the question asks, you are supposed to determine if a person had this approach, they would take this decision, etc. Then next is your decision tree questions. So again, you will be given a diagram and you will have to explain this particular diagram as to what usually happens after this decision. If this decision is taking, this is the outcome of that. So you will have to explain this entire table and the diagram as to what does this decision tree exactly mean. And finally, the question which we have seen asked is also analysis of a new investment and the risks involved in the same. So you will have to, let's say, conduct a sensitivity analysis that, let's say, we are investing X amount of money, but if your sales do not meet your expected by a certain rate, what will happen? You will have to conduct a deep study of this investment and the risks involved, and what could the potential impact of this be on your organization. Once again, this all become a part of your P1 syllabus, where you will be covering your expected values, your standard deviations, your risk attitudes, and also your risk decision criterias. While there could also be a lot of other smaller topics, at Fin Tutors, after experiences of teaching students and dealing with also SEMA, we have seen that these questions or these topics which I have discussed with you today are very probable and famous exam questions which have come up year after year. So again, it's very important that you revise all of your E1, P1, F1 syllabuses extremely well, and if possible, try and practice as many as mock papers as possible. At Fin Tutors, like I told you, we give you 25 questions to practice, which will be corrected by our professional markers. So we will help you build up your stamina, your exam writing skills step by step to prepare you for the final examination. So that was it in this particular video. Hope you had much more clarity as to what are a few topics I need to work on, or if, let's say, out of any of these there is a certain topic you've missed out, go back to your books, revise them, practice writing answers, and I'm sure if you do that, you will pass this examination with a very high percentage. So that's it from Fin Tutors today. Hope to see you in one of our courses soon. Thank you.